I've never read a comic series from issue 1 to the end. I've read like tiny chunks of them, but this is my first time reading them front to back. So I picked Marvel's G.I. Joe, as I had read a few issues of that growing up. I read 155 issues of Marvel's G.I. Joe run, and I'm going to be spoiling a lot. Not everything, but a lot. I'm also doing this with the idea you already know about G.I. Joe. Explaining them and all their characters would take its own video, so I'm doing this with the idea you've already seen the cartoon. Let me start off with the characters. It has all the ones from the show and ones that aren't in it. Scarlet in this one actually has a personality that's separate from the other G.I. Joe girls. She's really big into martial arts, she has her favorite people to be with, and she has a relationship with Snake Eyes. She even gets her own ninja outfit, which looks a bit like Jean Grey's. Snake Eyes in the comics is a lot cooler and more fleshed out. He was a soldier with a family, including his twin sister, so I guess he's a twin. He fought in war with Storm Shadow and others, but when he got home, there was nobody to greet him because his family died in a car accident. So he went to Japan and trained to be a ninja with Storm Shadow and others who I will talk about later. At one point, Scarlet gets mad at him because he said she reminds him of his sister. I think he meant it in, like, 'cause you're family and you're my safety kind of way, but she took it as like, oh, if I'm like your sister, then I can't date you kind of way, you know? Like a, oh, you're a brother to me kind of way, you know? She took it as a he friend-zoned her, not as an incest thing. And Snake Eyes, he speaks. That's until a helicopter smashes into another one and it lights his head on fire, which burns him all up and leaves him unable to speak. That is, he can't speak mostly. Now, he does talk once. At one point, Scarlet gets shot in the head, and Snake Eyes thinks she'll die, so he manages to squeak out her name. And that's really heartfelt and cute. But then in this other comic issue, he also says when, but I think this is just a mistake. Throughout the series, whenever Snake Eyes has his face shown, it disgusts people. The only times you actually see his face is when it's heavily shadowed or in a mask. Eventually we do see his face. He does end up having face surgery and fixes it all. He goes through 4 different costume changes through the series, and all of them are good, but his final one is my favorite. Storm Shadow is a Cobra only for a short time in these comics. He's a Cobra to find out who killed his master. Cobra Commander knows and promised he would tell him if he works for Cobra. I don't know why Storm Shadow just didn't beat it out of him, but whatever. So he works for Cobra, and eventually Storm Shadow learns and leaves Cobra. He joins forces with Snake Eyes and other G.I. Joes, and he's a big ally throughout. He has 3 different outfits and even gets an apprentice, Billy. Billy is Cobra Commander's son, who the commander doesn't care for. When Storm Shadow leaves, he takes Billy and he trains him. Eventually, Billy gets hurt and has an eye patch and a robotic leg. At first, I didn't really care for Billy, but he grew on me. He ends up wearing Storm Shadow's old robes when Storm Shadow makes an outfit change. At one point, we see Billy's mother. Billy calls himself a letdown and Storm Shadow slaps him, basically telling him not to degrade himself. Now eventually Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow have a team of ninjas. Sadly, none of them are very memorable, but other memorable characters are linked to them. Example, Softmaster. He is my absolute favorite character. He's constantly winning fights while teaching people along the way. He reminds me of like Uncle Iroh from Avatar. Like at one point this kid pulls a gun on him for money and he disarms him, takes away the gun, and pays the kid for the gun to A, stop the violence, B, help the kid's money situation, and C, teach a lesson. And he's just so fucking cool. Sadly, he gets blown up by a bazooka. So that sucked. Hardmaster. Not a lot known about him, but he dies, and that's why Storm Shadow was with Cobra to find out who killed him. Blind Master. He's a pretty cool dude who helps out troubled youth until he gets in a fight with Hardmaster's killer and gets stabbed to death. Faceless Master. Not a lot known about that guy. Or is there? Jinx. Jinx is pretty cool, but sadly she's not in here much. All these ninjas are part of the Arashikage clan. They have this special tattoo on them. It's a really cool design, and I got a henna version on me once to see if I want it, and I totally do. I'm gonna get a smaller version of it, but I think that's gonna be my first tattoo. So who killed Hardmaster then? Well, it was Zartan, the leader of the Dreadnoks. See, the car accident that killed Snake Eyes' family also killed a member of Cobra Commander's family, so he wanted Snake Eyes dead. He hired Zartan to do it, so Zartan couldn't get into the clan, but he did his best to try to become the clan swordsman's apprentice. I cannot say that. To do so, he had to wait 6 months outside the door. Eventually, the swordsmith let Zartan in, knowing he was bad, but convinced he could turn him good. So Zartan trained in martial arts, sword making, and kinda being naked. He began to enjoy life there, but eventually Cobra Commander threatened to tell the swordsmith why Zartan was really there. So Zartan went to kill Snake Eyes, but shot Hardmaster with an arrow instead. Totally an accident. With Hardmaster dead, Zartan left everything behind. He was ashamed of himself and afraid of Storm Shadow hunting him down. So when he came across Blind Master, who was fighting him because of Hardmaster, he beat the shit out of him and killed him. Again, ashamed of himself, Zartan shapeshifted into Blind Master. Yes, he can shapeshift, like in the show, but he can also shapeshift others, which is new. He shapeshifted into Blind Master and went on mentoring the kid, who Blind Master was mentoring before. So that's weird. Eventually the kid finds out, he gets mad, and nothing ever happens with that. Zartan goes on living life as a good guy and hanging out with Billy. He also gets this mohawk look that I don't personally like, but my sister loves it. So yeah, Zartan is in it, and so is Zorana, his sister, and his brother Xandar, as well as other Dreadnoks. There's a gag where no one remembers Xandar, and it's shown comedically as one of the Dreadnoks sits on him by accident. Xandar is barely in it and doesn't do much other than be kind of forgetful, so it's kind of funny. Zorana gets a boyfriend named Road Pig, who's a big muscle-bound simp with a tiny brain. He follows her orders and he's kind of her bitch, but he's also really tough, and I love him. The rest of the Dreadnoks have a running gag where they drink grape soda and eat donuts, which is mentioned in like half the issues they are in, and this dude didn't even take them out of the box. Then there's Cobra Commander. He's just like he was in the show. I learned his helmet was a battle helmet and his mask was for normal wear, which explains why the costume changes. In the show, I had no clue because it comes at random. We get to see a little of his backstory as a businessman involved in politics. He also has a sword sometimes, so that's cool. At one point, he wears this outfit though, and I hate it. The helmet covers the visor. He also has this suit, sorta. But the worst thing about him is his face, when we get to see it. Now when we see it, he said he's in a disguise, so you think, oh, maybe it's not that. But then in 2 more places in the comics, we see his face again, and he's not in a disguise. So yeah, it's this. This is his face. I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't that. Back to his silver suit though. He does not wear that. He gets shot in the back by a Fred clone, and that clone takes over as the commander until he dies and the real commander returns. But the real one is presumed dead for over 30 issues. So damn. Now what is a Fred clone? Well, Cobra Commander had these Crimson Guards who went through surgery to look like this man, Fred Broca, who was minorly important to the Cobras. When a Fred would die, another would take his place. It was a totally unnecessary plan that resulted in a fake Fred living with the old Fred's family, and them knowing it wasn't him. The wife even knows, but she is down for this. But the kids eventually accept him as their new dad, and he just replaces the old dad. It's fucking freaky. It's like something that would be in Twilight Zone. Anyway, one of the Freds shot Cobra Commander and ended up being the new commander for about 30 issues until he was killed and the old one returned. Destro and Baroness are also in this and in love. During a battle, Baroness gets blown up. Destro gets really sad about it, and the other Cobras kind of mock him. But then Destro regains himself. Baroness doesn't die. She gets surgery to fix her bones. And comes back looking like this. Hubba hubba. Ooh. Destro gets a really cool looking new outfit. And honestly, this version of Destro is my favorite. He can fight. He's actually really fucking smart. And he only works for Cobra Commander about 30-ish issues. For most of the time, he's leading his own army. And he's almost always in pursuit of his love, the Baroness. At one point, she gets tied to a tank, and Destro brings an army to save her, not caring about victory, only caring about her. And unlike other villains, Destro only wants to be with Baroness enjoying himself, and really not much else. We also see his face. I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, that one is fine, I guess. I don't know what I expected again. Serpentor is in this too. He's created with historical tyrants, and also Storm Shadow's injured body. He comes out being a better and smarter leader than Cobra Commander, and this creates a war between Serpentor, Cobra Commander, G.I.Joe, and Destro. Destro is just there to rescue the Baroness. During this battle, Serpentor gets shot in the face with an arrow from Zartan, and he dies. I'm sorry, but that's funny, and I loved it. I wasn't expecting it, and I love it. Dr. Mindbender is called Dr. Brainwave twice when he first comes in, but in the same issue they change it to Mindbender, and it stays that way forever since then, so I don't know what was up with that. In one issue, he looks like the Monopoly guy, and in this issue, he gets a lame new suit. I hate this suit. Firefly's the same, except he's actually not. He's the Faceless Master, which does not make any sense because he saw Soft Master and neither reacted to each other, but I guess he's Faceless Master. Anyway, upon revealing that, Firefly became much more skilled and competent, seemingly out of nowhere, and he dons this new suit. That's, this one's okay. This one's fine. The Cobra Bats eventually get a rework to look a bit like the Terminators now. And it's kind of cool because their destruction reminded me of old Transformer comics I used to read. Speaking of which, the motherfucking Transformers are in this. Destro has a castle that can transform, and Megatron mistakes it as a Transformer. He's all badly damaged from something, and him and Cobra Commander make a deal. Cobra Commander has a team work on him, which is why Megatron has the camo armor and can transform into a tank. Like, I knew eventually he went from this white armor to the camo armor, but I never knew how, and knowing how makes me really happy. Knowing is also half the battle. There was other new characters and old characters, but none of them really appealed to me, or they were barely in it. Like this dude. He looks cool as hell, but we only see him twice, and he does nothing. Other cool things: the brainwave scanner, which can erase and implant memories in a painful way. Dr. Mindbender's cyber matrix, which causes real-looking holograms to confuse opponents. We get cameos from J. Jonah Jameson and Spider-Man's foot. Okay, so these ninja hand symbols, I know I saw them in Michael Didikoff's American Ninja, so I want to learn more about them. Anyone with info on that, tell me. The issues also say Stan Lee Presents, so I don't know what that means. Did he direct it? If he did, what does the chief do? Teach me about that. I am new to the comic book world. Some special moments include the entire issue 21, which is Snake Eyes saving Scarlet from Storm Shadow with no words and only pictures. That's kind of unique, kind of cool. There's a fight between Storm Shadow and Quick Kick where Quick Kick loses hella fast. This fight, where Snake Eyes, Timber, Jinx, Storm Shadow, and Scarlet fight off an army of red ninjas in issue 91, which is another big recommendation. I also recommend all of issue 119 as it's completely self-contained and it's pretty cool. There's this moment where Snake Eyes finds the enemy underneath him, stabs through the floor into his hand, but the dude doesn't make a sound out of fear of being found. But then Snake Eyes pulls it back up, and he sees blood on his sword. So he pulls out an Uzi, and he kills ninjas until Firefly has them make a stupid formation saying Snake Eyes can't get through. But he has an Uzi, he can just shoot them dead. Snake Eyes instead goes in it with his swords, but he still wins, you know? It's a dumb fight, but it's memorable. You know, here's a few other dumb moments. This moment where Major Blood sings Cobra Commander a song. A woman calls Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow perverts for no reason. Snake Eyes, Scarlet, and Blind Master briefly join a circus. During a fight, Zorana calls Baroness a liberal. Cobra Commander says, "Yes sirree, Bob." She's recovering from a stab wound. This one's recovering from being dead. What? A Democrat in the White House? Cheers got cancelled? What happened to Michael Jackson's face? Shit, I think I was trying to do Destro there. What does Mindbender sound like? Oh, fuck. Hey, snack food. Don't hide it, divide it. This particular punch made a fap noise. So, ew. Here's Flint being a maniac while quoting Elmer Fudd. Yeah, this one's the funniest of them all. Brace yourself. This girl's father gets put to death by firing squad, and no one saves him. So the girl is adopted in America, and the first thing her new siblings say is, "Wanna play Nintendo? We got X-Men." Have you played this game? Do you know how bad it sucks? The poor thing is traumatized. Please don't make it worse. Now, when comparing the comic to the show, there is a lot more militaristic stuff, and there's way more vehicle battles. There's also death, and a fucking gulag, as well as a lot more political stuff. The rebels are going to keep the gulags operating, but with a different clientele. Is this all the revolution has accomplished? A shift in ideological persecution to racial persecution? It's actually a good thing the comic doesn't have PSAs like the show. There was never any way to shut out the screams of the burn victims as dead tissue was flayed off of them. Me, I couldn't have screamed if I wanted to. I was relatively lucky. I still had most a face. I met some guys who didn't have ears, nose, lips, eyelids. One of them, his name Travis, kept begging me to smother him with his pillow. G.I.Joe! The comic is sort of like a PG-13 version of the show, with 50 continuing subplots all loosely tied together, with a lot of them going nowhere. The art ranges from good to bad to weird. That's basically how the whole comic is. It's got good stories, bad stories, mediocre stories. I did enjoy reading it though. It's better than the show in character development and the fact that people can die, but I still recommend the show more, and really only recommend the comic to those who love the show and want more. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm either doing a Transformers comic next, or the G.I. Joe show. Either way, it takes a long time to make these, But let me know which you want more, Transformers or the G.I. Joe, and I'll have plenty of other videos in the meantime for you to watch.